Aloha and welcome to this edition of Five Questions here on HawaiiReporter.com and KHVHradio.com. My name is Rick Hamada. It's a delight to welcome on board for Five Questions today Dr. Panos Prevedouros. And Panos, we wish you aloha, and how are you doing?
Hi, Rick. Aloha. I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for being with us. Let me jump on in with the five questions with question number one. Panos, what's the basis of your opposition to the rail project as it exists today?
Okay, well, if we were to put it in one sentence, that would be too little a payoff for too high a cost. In other words, for $6 billion, give or take, all we are getting is, that is if you believe the city's numbers, and 1% gain in mass transit ridership. The bus today carries 5.6% of our trips in one day on Oahu. If we get the rail, that 5.6 will jump to 6.6. That doesn't even make sense that anybody will invest $6 billion for such a kind of payoff. And you see, from the beginning, we knew that urban transit systems do not work particularly well, especially if you want to address severe congestion, which we have, because not enough people reroute or change mode and take the train. Now, if we were like Phoenix, that just opened a light rail system at a cost of $150 per person, well, we have other bigger fish to fry than $150 a person. But our system is north of $6,000 a person. It really does not make any sense.
That is astounding number. Question number two, Panos, is kind of connected here. So let's assume that the rail project, as we know it, comes to fruition. Can you describe the impact on a couple of things? First of all, congestion and commuting. Secondly, our environment. And thirdly, financially.
Okay. There will be calamitous impacts on at least four fronts. Number one, and that will be the immediate, is the construction for anywhere between 6 to 16 years. Multiple lane closures. People will have to divert on the H1 freeway, and then that already congested freeway will become undrivable. So for several years, the folks out in, Kapolei and Kolina, etc., and Waianae will suffer a lot. The second one is irreparable damage to the environment, as you said, and aesthetics, because 20-mile elevated superstructure on a beautiful island is unheard of. Today, if you were to sum up all the freeway overpasses we have, they don't account for more than 8 miles. And on that 8 mile, we're going to add 20-mile superstructure. That is simply too much. Commute. Well, the city actually gives us the answer, which is going to be actually worse than what the city says. The EIS proclaims that congestion in 2030 with rail will be far worse than it is today. That's why every time I speak to my friends in Kapolei, I keep reminding them that the best commuting day they ever had was yesterday. Every day it gets worse, and it will get worse even if rail kicks in. The fourth one, finally, is the finance, as you said, because rail will sap so much federal and local resources, there's going to be very little else to fix roads, sewers, water mains, etc. Even if people argue for those we have collect different taxes, it's the same family from which you collect taxes. How much are you going to drain out of them?
Panos, thank you very much. I do want to transition over to a third question. It has to do with government leadership, where City Council Transportation Director Breen Haramoto and Budget Director Ernie Martin recently made a junket trip to the mainland and also to Copenhagen. They visited San Francisco and Los Angeles, Copenhagen, of course. I'd like to get your take on the fact that they are not at liberty, as they say, to reveal any information from those trips. What's your reaction?
Well, they are elected officials, and we are talking about mass transit systems, so it is highly suspicious that they will not talk about them. Now, I have recently investigated a little bit the Los Angeles system, particularly the light rail, the blue line between Los Angeles and Long Beach. Los Angeles and Long Beach.
Perfect.
Both of them are, quite large cities. Anyhow, the line is similar in size to ours. There is 22 miles. Ours is about 20 miles. If you were to build the blue line today, that's the blue line in Los Angeles, the cost would be $1.5 billion. Ours is $5.5 billion. Now, in fairly dense and expansive Los Angeles, today it attracts 80,000 people. It started with 25,000 people, and it grew to 80,000 people. Our forecast is 100,000 people the opening year. So you can tell that the city's numbers are really off. Now, continuing on the junket, they also went to Copenhagen. Copenhagen, of course, is a socialist country. They like to spend a lot of public money on infrastructure. So they hired Ansaldo. Ansaldo is the company that will be developing our rail system here, the transit cars and the operation of the system. From what I heard in Denmark, that was an interesting public-private partnership, so Ansaldo actually invested in the project. But there has been also quite a few change of hands and second and third contracts, and quite a bit of money was lost in all these transactions. We'll have to look into more detail into that, but that's what I know so far.
We appreciate it, Panos. Thank you very much. I do want to transition over to two areas that have recently been in the news. One has to do with a lawsuit that is to be filed in federal court. As a matter of fact, by the time of this podcast, it had already taken place. But this is a group of individuals, community members, filing suit against various entities in the federal and local government in regard to the rail project. Nicholas Yost is lead counsel. First of all, what's your insight into this lawsuit? Second of all, your commentary on Nicholas Yost.
This is a lawsuit based on breaches to the environmental law, the NEPA process. And there have been several that will be alleged in the lawsuit, and I'm 100% confident that the lawsuit will gain some traction. I do not know how far it will go, but it will gain traction. In other words, I do not expect it to be thrown out of court in the first session of the court. Nicholas Yost actually is one of the authors of the NEPA Act as of 20 years ago. So he knows the act inside and out, and that's all he does in his practice as an attorney. He always deals with mega projects and the impact they have on communities and how that impact was assessed based on the NEPA process. Since Cliff Slater, Governor Ben Cayetano, and others, we strongly feel that the NEPA process was not followed adequately. I believe there is significant grounds for stalling, if not stopping, the project.
On that note, Panos, question number 5 on our 5 questions has to do specifically with the actions by the City Council. Recently, there was $18 million that was appropriated for HART, the rail authority.
Right.
We've learned that about through Cliff Slater, approximately $2 billion of funds have been encumbered for this particular project. And finally, we're all aware that no federal monies have been awarded up until this point. From a financial standpoint, Panos, again, with all these appropriations and the encumbrance of all this cash, what the heck is going on? What's your take and observation on all the money at this point?
Yeah, well, in one word, plain foolishness. Plain foolishness, because they're playing with our money, and politicians have been awarding contracts for a project that has not finished its process. It is actually, only in Hawaii you can get away with this, with things like this. The city just applied to the feds to enter the final design phase. So we are actually procuring and writing contracts for a project that has not entered and completed final design. After final design, you go to the federal grant process, the FFGA. Only then the feds will tell you how much money you will get and over what horizon of years. Even then, Congress can cut the appropriation, reduce it, or grant it as is. So there are so many stages that we can lose money between now and 2 years from now that the federal process completes, that it is totally foolish to spend our local money. Now, it is actually, I find it, from a political perspective, very disingenuous that when we were voting for the HART amendment, Carlisle was telling us and the other advocates that it's going to cost nothing. Now we know it's costing $18 million, and it will take the politics out of rail. Yet politicians Carlisle and Hanneman wrote $2 billion worth of contracts. So, I mean, what is the heart going to do? How is that taking politics out of the equation? Total shibai.
Dr. Panos Prevedouros, former mayoral candidate, and, of course, very prominent in the conversation regarding rail and transportation issues. Panos, is there a contact email address or any other information you want to share with our folks?
Sure. They can email me at panos.prevedouros@gmail.com and call us at 637-2667 anytime with your questions.
We appreciate you very much, Dr. Panos Prevedouros, for this edition of 5 Questions on HawaiiReporter.com and KHVHradio.com. Thank you, Panos. We'll talk soon.
Take care, Rick. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye now.